Good evening and welcome to the meeting of Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. It is Thursday, December 11th, and it is 6:05 p.m. This meeting is being streamed online and recorded by BNC TV. We do have members online, so we need to take a roll call vote to start. Stephanie?
Stephanie Arroyo, here.
Raina Dastu here.
Stephen Martin here.
Melissa?
Melissa Osborne here.
And Melissa Gary here. Hey. Sharon is not present yet.
Oh.
It's okay. Citizen comments? Okay. So we will go right into approval of minutes. However, we are waiting for our consultant, Ken Lombardi, for the health insurance. So when he logs on, we will finish up what we're doing and then go straight to that. Okay. So approval of minutes for November 20th, 2025. Any changes?
Page 3, item 6, personnel. Bridget Hammond is Bridget.
Oh,
She might like Bridget.
Yeah.
no, that's how my neighbors spelled it. The funny thing is, I even looked it up on the school directory, and I still spelled it wrong. I didn't fix it after I looked it up. Oh, well. I had this thought.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that looks good. Is that it? Okay, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, vote.
Stephanie Arroyo, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Melissa Osborne, yes.
Melissa Gary, yes. Okay, those are approved. Thank you. Chair, I have no report for this evening. Superintendent Kinsella?
I will do the briefest report because we'll have longer conversation later. I just wanted to share what I saw this afternoon. You know, there was a time deadline, and so I procrastinated, like I needed to take a walk. So I walked down to the middle school wing, and in the hallway outside the cafeteria was the indoor track team, the subsection of which was practicing passing the baton for relay races. That was really fun. And they said, you've got to see the long jumpers. So I went around to the middle school hallway where Coach Paul Hake had laid out a black mat. And there was a big, fat mat down at the end of the hallway. And the athletes were measuring their paces from the mat for the long jump. And so Coach Hake was putting down strips of masking tape saying, so-and-so starts here, so-and-so starts here. I thought that was fantastic. Right? Indoor track in the hallway is wonderful. And in the middle school hallway were a number of poems posted about where I am from. And last year we put some of those poems in the district update. How about I read just one?
Okay.
Is that okay? Oh, thank you, Chair Gary. I'm going to make an appointment. Where I Am From by Riley Gray. I am from the great smells of my farm. I am from New England weather. I am from cold snowmobiling. I am from the mornings hunting. I am from summers spent in Maine. I am from the great tastes of shepherd's pie. I am from watching SpongeBob after school. This is a well-rounded child. I am from watching sports with my family. I am from basketball floors. I am from stealing baseball bases. I am from cheering for the Red Sox. I am from the small town of Bernardston. Congratulations, Riley Gray. What a poem. There you go.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, Director of Finance and Operations.
Yes, hello. I am so happy to report that E&D has been certified.
Yay!
Yay.
That's good.
Awesome.
Yes, it's been certified in the amount of $528,298. So that is nice to have that done. Budget planning, let's see, our next budget meeting is December 22nd, which I believe is a Monday, and we will present the first draft of the FY27 budget. That meeting is also going to be a school committee meeting, so the full school committee can discuss the time-sensitive questions of an MSBA field feasibility study, excuse me. The expenditure report, there are still negative balances. You approved budget transfers last month. They have to be approved by the commissioner before I can make changes. So that's why you're still seeing the negatives in there. Revenue report, so far we've received $6,031,681.44. And food services had a profit this month. Yay, of $827.99. Total year-to-date operating is $13,445.83. And if you'll recall at the last meeting, I reported on we had to encumber $15,000 in custodial salaries of work that they did in food service. So we're still seeing that offset there. Any questions? All right, and move on to grant approval.
Grant approval, yep.
So at the end of November, we received approval of 2 grants. One is the Targeted Tiered Math Off-Ramp Grant for $7,500. And the other was the Fair Share Earmarks Grant for $100,000. And that's the very exciting one for, we hope to build our outdoor pavilion. And these
Great.
do
And
need
there's a vote. Okay. So I will accept a motion to accept the grants outlined above and to approve spending of the grant funds.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Stephanie?
Stephanie Arroyo, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Melissa Osborne, yes.
And Melissa Gary, yes. Okay, all right.
Excuse me one
Yep.
second. Michelle Giruso has texted saying she's been trying to join the meeting. I'm going to text Mrs. Giruso from my computer, sorry. I want to show her right there. I'll also re-invite her. Ken's on it? I sent him a link. He's already invited.
So while they're doing that, just so you know, Business B, student assessment, we're taking off the agenda tonight. That wasn't ready to go. But everything else is in order.
Right.
So we are on staff attendance data.
Okey-dokey. Staff attendance data. So, well, everybody tries really hard. And I sound a little snarky. I'm acknowledging it. The state, I am sure, has had many conversations, among the folks there about why they want to gather and publish staff attendance data. I'm assuming that they want to show the public how much people are showing up to school. That, in theory, could be great. Unfortunately, the implementation of this project has not been what we would hope for. They have not disaggregated different types of attendance. So, as you see in the memo, we're a really small district. If we have 2 or 3 people out on a parental leave, that skews everything. And we made some mistakes, and we are not alone. we made a couple of errors. So our attendance looks bad. It looks bad for every category of person. It looks bad for all staff, teachers, administrators. We made a couple of big errors. We put in the wrong number of expected days of attendance for teachers. We overstated it by 3 days. So all teachers off the bat look like they've had 3 absences. And for administrators, we put in the number of vacation days and expected days of attendance incorrectly, and we counted vacation days as absences, even though under the state's most current guidance, we should not have. So for instance, I take very little time off, and my attendance looks bad. I have really good attendance. So, learning curve. We'll do better next time with the way we input our data. We don't feel good about some of what we sense as a little bit of maybe could be shaming groups of educators for attendance. You know, if someone's having a baby, they should be out of work. They should be at home taking care of their baby. If someone is really sick, they should be home taking care of themselves and getting rest, and that shouldn't be seen as a negative. So, you know, we have the attendance rates we have. They're 90% or so, 91.8. It's below the state average. We know we made mistakes. We work really hard on attendance, and, you know, sometimes we have attendance issues that we need to address with staff of all different kinds. So we wanted to be transparent. The staff attendance data report came out for the very first time. Oh, sorry.
No, I wanted to
waiting. Sorry.
I wanted to just give a little preview. Where is this coming from?
Sorry,
Right.
everybody.
So like, where is this coming from?
Yes.
Why are we talking about staff attendance?
That would have been good to begin with that.
I
That would have been good to be. The state has decided that they are going to issue an annual staff attendance data report, and this is the first one, and it's become public.
Yes.
I talked to a lot of superintendents across the state. No one is feeling good about this. And so let's hope that the state learns and makes some different decisions. We will do a better job with our data submission. You know, when we have concerning data, I bring that to you, and I'm very honest with you. I don't like that. I can't even pay a lot of attention to this one because the numbers are so wrong. So that's the staff. Thank you.
It's okay. I just.
Coming from healthcare,
Yeah.
I feel your pain when it comes to metrics and indices that can be distorted. Not to add work, or that work has been already done, but do we have like an index of the difference between the numbers we're seeing here and what they actually are? I don't want to create a problem.
No,
but
we don't, because when I looked at the, for instance, administrator vacation days that went in, they were wrong in 2 different ways that penalized, and I decided I'm not going to invest the time. Like for administrator attendance, I keep tabs on that. Our administrators show up to work. Like, we don't have an issue there. So, good question. I just decided not to invest time.
Yeah.
No, so I just wanted to make sure that
you.
that this is in a response to a widely publicized article that went out about staff and administrator data. Many people went to that report and automatically filtered it. You saw Pioneer at the very bottom. We were in some of the lowest of staff attendance. And so we dug into it, and then we saw that there was some issues amongst the reporting. So that is where this is coming from.
And I want to say there was an article in the Recorder about this data, and it sounded like there was a very unified voice among superintendents that the tool was not as useful as they would like it to be. Yeah. So.
And this is also the first time you are hearing about a staff attendance data, because as Superintendent Kinsella said, this is the first year the state has done this. So, all new. All right. Policy review.
Okay, so, someone has said something, excuse me. It keeps saying you will join when someone lets you in. Are you seeing Mrs. Girusso?
No, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah.
Because Jen sends out the meetings.
Oh, I wonder if Jen is that.
Excuse me 1 second.
Does it behoove us to update that data at all? Is it any kind of ramifications for funding, for anything like that?
No,
Okay.
there's nothing in there.
And
Good
it's a
question.
very busy time. I think we should say that as
Yeah.
well, because we're working on our health insurance and our budgets.
Yep.
And we're not just randomly saying, yay, that report, you know, understates.
Thanks to you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Kathy is working on it.
That's okay.
Okay, school committee, last month, thank you, used the accelerated process to approve the CTE, Career and Technical Education Middle School Exploratory Pathway. This is, and DESE is asking a lot of districts very quickly, so much so that Mary Bork, Executive Director of the State Superintendent's Association, has gathered data from us saying, how often is this happening? And has sent a formal letter to the state saying, we love you, you're asking too much, and you're asking for it too quickly, and you're creating a burden on our districts. Everybody kind of slow down. So this one has been asked for, again, very quickly. Thank you for approving a policy. We sent it to the state, and they sent it back saying we needed small changes in 3 areas. You have the areas that we need. One of them, for instance, is we needed to make sure that we included mail, not just email, as one of the ways we will send information out about career and vocational technical education opportunities. We've got to include the 7th graders in the contact information we provide to Franklin Tech. We need to make sure we're saying we won't provide more student information than is allowed for. We don't want to give them everything about kids. So my apologies that these errors were in our submission to the state and that we have to come back to you and ask for reapproval of this policy.
Okay. So tonight, what we're looking for is the first and second reading. The edits are in red. So I would accept a motion to approve the revised middle school pathway exploration policy as presented and to allow the superintendent to update the policy's title in accordance with the MASC naming convention without further approval from the school committee to be effective on December 18th, 2025.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. Stephanie? Now we're going to vote.
Stephanie Arroyo, yes.
Rena Daster, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Melissa Osborne, yes.
And Melissa Gary, yes.
Oh, I could call Michelle and she could be in on phone. What's that? Would you do that? Would you call? Stephanie Arroyo is going to call you so that you can join us by phone, period. Was that a pass? That was a pass.
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
was a pass.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. FY27 budget development update.
So this will be pretty brief. We had our subcommittee meeting on November 24th, and we had a lot of town officials here, and it was really great to have them here and to hear their comments and interest. Our next, like I said before, our next subcommittee meeting is on the 22nd, and we have a few town meetings lined up. We're going to Leiden on January 5th. We're going to Northfield on February 2nd. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Bernardston about when we can visit them. And as soon as I hear back, I will let people know.
Great. Thank you. Also, just as a reminder, the December 22nd is going to be a hybrid budget meeting and school committee meeting. There will be a vote possibly that evening about the MSBA feasibility study. And so that's why we are making it we need to get that done for the timeline on whether we're going to move forward or not. Okay. All right, MSBA feasibility study.
Okay. All right, we're up on the screen. I'm going to put some slides up. All righty. So this is a big deal, and we need to be working in conjunction with our towns on this. This is a preview of what will be a fuller presentation in 11 days on December 22nd. And we will be letting town officials know tomorrow morning that there will be a full presentation about the questions that we collectively need to consider regarding a feasibility study. So tonight we're going to swim in a bit of information. There'll be some meandering. The big points that I hope everyone takes away are that we have major problems in our buildings. They have to be fixed. They will be expensive to fix. There's no debate about that. We have long overdue maintenance that must happen. So the questions will be, how do we want to make it happen? And there are options. So that's what I'm hoping for tonight. Okay, so what's the problem we're trying to solve? Our buildings need significant investment over the next 5 to 10 years. And the past month, and in particular this week, have been prime examples of what happens when our, sorry, I'm looking for my papers here. Huh. That's all right. What I was looking for are maps of NES and BES. We've had our custodians taking temperatures in all the rooms this week. Here are some numbers: 49 degrees, 51 degrees, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60 degrees. The boiler room at NES the other day was 33 degrees. The gym in this building 2 weeks ago was 53 degrees. And you all are aware of the glycol leaks over at Bernardston Elementary School. Those are part of the heating system. And Taffy has, thank you, reached out to our HVAC vendor, who's making some pretty dire predictions about what this winter could look like, given the state of the pipes that distribute the glycol water mix throughout the building. So, you know, this is just, it happens to have happened right now, but it feels like a pretty good mini case study in our buildings need a ton of work. And that was documented in our facilities master plan. I'll talk a bit more about that. So again, what's the problem we're trying to solve? So to make informed decisions about what to do, our towns need really solid, accurate, good, detailed information. Like, what are our options for managing this? How much would each option cost? What benefits does each option provide? These are the most basic of questions. What makes the most sense financially in the long term to do? And that will be inevitably a collective decision. That is not just a school committee decision. It is not just a town decision. It is a collective decision. Our role as an administrative team is to present you, school committee, and town officials with information to help you move through that process. Now, we held a meeting with the MSBA a couple of weeks ago. There's going to be a couple slides about that. Was it that night or the next night? The select board in Bernardston held a meeting, and they approved a letter saying, we have no interest in a feasibility study. And they sent it right to the MSBA, saying, don't approve this. We don't like it. We think we can't afford it. We have declining population. Like, we strongly recommend that did not move forward. We were informed by the MSBA that the Leiden Select Board sent a similar letter. Unfortunately, Leiden didn't share that letter with us, so we did get it from the MSBA, but similar things: we don't have money, it's gonna, too much, we can't afford it. I am sympathetic. I am a taxpayer in Northfield. And let me say this again. The piper is coming to be paid. Like, the piper is on their way here. I'm not trying to be funny. The piper is coming to be paid. Our buildings have not had major work for decades. It's not a question of if we want to spend money. The question is, when do we want to spend money and for what? Right? Like, that is maybe the most important point that we need to emphasize with town residents as well. It's not a question of, do we like the idea? BES cannot continue for years with this business of no heat in rooms and leaks, and NES can't continue with, we got no heat in a room. I'm over there the other week. I'm in one room, the conference room on the main floor. It's broiling. And across the hall was a 6th grade classroom with 3 space heaters running at the same time. Our vendor went to install the rebuilt blower in that room yesterday and had to stop because the sparks started flying when they touched the electrical system, and said, we're not touching this until an electrician comes out and works on it. And we've got an estimate for hundreds of thousands of dollars for electrical work at Northfield. So this is dire sounding because it is a dire situation. All right. So you'll remember we did a big facilities master plan process. We used $120,000 of ESSER money. This is ridiculous to read. I'm trying to make a point here. This is copied and pasted from a memo, and I can't expand it. This is there's a link to the memo, so anyone can look at it. Almost exactly 2 years ago, we presented recommendations from the district planning committee, which involves some people in this room, and our vendor, Canon Design. This is a record of the process and key steps in that process and materials shared. I'm going to read. On 7/21, we sent an invite to join the district planning committee to town officials. On 12/15, there was a meeting between Canon Design and town officials. There's an invite to town officials on 9/18. On 11/2, we were transparent. We invited the towns in. We invited our community in through a very thorough, open, at times enjoyable process of what the heck do we want to do for our future? What makes sense for our future? Now, the unanimous recommendation from the district planning committee was explore the option of bringing everybody up here. Okay, hang on to that, and please put that to the side for a second, because that's not what a feasibility study is about. A feasibility study would be about, okay, the state, via the Mass School Building Authority, in 2024 determined that Northfield Elementary School was one of the neediest buildings in the state, one of the most needy school facilities in the Commonwealth in that year in terms of, I'm saying the word need too much. Yeah, that's the language. The building needs work. And so we submitted statements of interest on all 3 buildings. Statements of interest are not grand visions for the future. They're, look at our buildings. We think they're not, then we think they need help. They picked NES, saying, yeah, that building really needs help. That was the state saying that. How much money are we talking about when we think about what these facilities assessment reports say? Now, they're big numbers. We can quibble with the numbers. We can do more than quibble. We can pull the numbers apart. The towns should pull the numbers apart. And to my understanding, Bernardston has probably, of the 3 towns, been the one that has dug in most. Brian, you all have dug into this, right? Yeah. And maybe they disagree with, no, we don't need that. We're talking $40 million 2 years ago of maintenance needed just to keep the buildings rolling along. Not a penny of that is about improving the functioning of the buildings for an even better educational program. That's not to make things spiffy. That's to fix windows, fix HVAC, fix flooring, fix plumbing, fix electrical, fix roofs, the whole, the envelopes of the buildings. I'm calling it 40 million, 39 something. That's 2 years ago. So inflation factored in. These are big numbers. All right, I'm gonna jump someplace different. When the MSBA met with the district, it was an online meeting. I'm so grateful we had representation from the towns. Michelle Girusso was their school committee member, but she was representing the town of Leiden as their town coordinator. Brian Keir and Karen Kelly were there from Bernardston. B. Jacques, select board chair from Northfield, thank you very much, participated. The purpose of that meeting was for the MSBA to present the results of their enrollment study. Lo and behold, we were taken aback, because what does the MSBA and their statistical team project? An increase in enrollment over the next 10 years in this district. I didn't expect this. So if on this slide, the trough, as it were, in student enrollment is right now. It is this year. And these numbers do not reflect all students. I have a call into the MSBA. I have a number of key questions. I don't know which students are not included in this projection. What they're saying is, we're going to grow by about 200 kids over the next 10 years. But that's only some of the kids. It's not, I'm suspecting some of the crews like school choice, or I don't know about the tuition kids. Some of those, we got to figure that out. I got to hear from them. So the repeated, Pioneer, declining. The statistical team at the MSBA that does nothing but enrollment projections all the time says our enrollment's going to increase. They use data like live births. They use a method called cohort survival rates, meaning of kids that enter in a certain grade, how many of them, what percentage of them tend to stay over X number of grades. An excellent question was brought up during that meeting at the end, towards the end. Well, MSBA, you're projecting an increase in student enrollment, but when we renovated Pioneer 25 years ago, you projected an increased enrollment, and here we are with so few kids. Essentially, my words, why should we trust you now? Well, here's the answer. The MSBA didn't exist when Pioneer was renovated. The MSBA was not in existence, and they said this in the politest of terms. So many districts were overly optimistic about their future enrollment and overbuilt their facilities that when the legislature created the Mass School Building Authority, they required that student enrollment projections be conducted by the MSBA. So they didn't use these words, I'm using these words. If we overbuilt, it's our own darn fault. And we're not alone, clearly, because they wrote the law to say the state has to do the enrollment projections, not locality. So it's not the MSBA's fault that this building was built for 700 kids or whatever it was built for. So that's one piece of information that we're looking at increased numbers in the next 10 years. Okay, here's a different one. Taffy and I have been digging into the Division of Local Services website. There's a link here. If you like numbers, this is your place to hang out. There's a link up there. This is a sample representation, and this is Leiden 2021. And you can click anything in here. This takes, okay, town of Leiden in 2021, what'd you spend your money on? Right? On the right-hand circle, you can see that education, which is purple, was 51.09% of Leiden's total expenditures in that year. Okay, a really important caveat. See these taupe slices, brown, like whatever they are? Okay. Those are the fixed cost sections of the town's expenditures. In a regional school district, the district almost always, well, always actually, pays for health insurance for employees. So in a regional school district, the town's expenditure towards education will be proportionally larger than a municipal district in which employee health insurance is picked up by the town and not the district. So in many towns that are municipal districts, this taupe section is much larger because that represents the insurance for all the education employees. Right? So I want you to hear that. So it's not a surprise that the percent of the town expenditures in a regional district town will be bigger than in a municipal district. Okay, so what's been happening with our towns? This was another surprise to us. Over the past 8 years, these are the years for which data are easily available, the proportion of our town budgets that has gone to education, and that's all education, so that would be Franklin Tech and Pioneer, has been going down. And it's been going down not just a little bit. It's been going down a lot. These numbers are straight from the, I made the graph, but they're the numbers from DLS. People can go and check, and we'll work and double check. So in blue, Bernardston, right? What's that, 63% or so. It's now down. You're within, Bernardston and Northfield are within a 1/10 of a percentage point in 2025 in terms of the proportion of the town budget that went to education. Leiden has gone down quite a bit. Just how much is this? So Bernardston, the proportion of your budget, Bernardston, has gone to education in the past 8 years has decreased by 12.2%. The change in actual percentage points is 7.8%. But check out Leiden. The percentage of Leiden's budget that has gone to education has decreased by over 23% in the past 8 years. I will be honest. I don't know exactly what to make of this, right? Like, I am sharing information. I think it's a great, this is really interesting information, but I cannot tell you exactly what it means, right? So in a protocol, we'd say, what, so what, now what? Like, the what is, wow, the proportion of the town budget that's been going towards education has been decreasing in all 3 towns over 8 years, clearly, no question, there it is. So what? Like, I don't know what it means. I have some ideas, but I don't want to overstate what it might mean. Okay. I'm sharing this information about a projected increase in student enrollment and what has been happening with education and town budgets to inform the future conversation about whether to move forward with a feasibility study, right? So what is a feasibility study? This is straight off the MSBA website. It's to help the district and the state explore potential solutions, right? And I've talked about the rigidity of the MSBA process, which I think is awesome. They are so stringent about how stuff, I think that's really, really good. It's taxpayer money. It should always be like that. It helps us explore possible solutions so that town residents can make the most informed choices about how they want to spend their money and support their schools. Right? And town residents could choose not to fund a feasibility study and still support the schools. I did not mean those things to be inextricably linked, right? But definitely, to make the most informed decision, we would go through a feasibility study. And I love that they say to determine the most cost-effective and educationally appropriate solution, right? Because what we know and what we look through during the facilities master planning process is that doing nothing is an option. It's a really bad option. Right? Doing nothing is expensive. Doing nothing results in buildings where the heating is falling apart and we haven't even hit the winter solstice. So how much would a feasibility study cost? On the order of $1 million to $1.2 million. MSBA will be reimbursing us at about 58%. Right? That was the number they gave out at the meeting. They have to do a little more finessing and then they give us a final number, but about 58%. So what does that mean? I don't know of another investment on the planet that is legit, it's not the Brooklyn Bridge, where someone else is paying 58% of the money you spend, right? You know, 1 to 1.2 million, that means in kind of more or less maybe the district, our community, needs to spend $550,000. Ballpark that, right? Now, here's the disappointment for us as a team. We had been planning on and hoping that the district could self-fund the feasibility study. We had hoped via our revolving accounts that we had enough in there that we could comfortably, without increasing financial risk to the district, pay and not go to our towns and say, we need to borrow some money. Taffy, thank you, and Cami Limica have been combing through and combing through and combing through. We do not have enough money, sorry about that, people, to do it. We don't. We think we could fund about 100 to 150 of it without creating great risk. 400, 450 alone, somewhere, take that to be 350 to 500, like just even expand it a little bit. We need to take out some debt. To take out debt, that essentially always is going to go back to town taxpayers, right? A debt would not begin to be repaid. We wouldn't be assessing until FY28, right? This is not, we're not talking about if there's a loan and there's a lot of steps and we got to do a lot of conversation. It's not for FY27. More or less the timeline is if there were a collective decision to say it makes financial sense to spend the 500, 550, maybe 600 on a feasibility study so that we plan out the tens of millions really carefully and we're using it in the very best way possible. That decision has to happen in the next month or 6 weeks. Towns have to consider voting, select boards, a lot of conversation. We don't start getting bills until the end of 2026. We don't start paying bills until the beginning of 2027. That is FY28. Okay? We're not billing the towns until FY28. What's the process for borrowing money under state law in a regional school district? And we shared this information with the towns. I think, who was it who asked? I think someone from Leiden asked. Ginger. So we sent this in, and we gave the citations. Here's how it works. And this is all if, right? School committee takes a vote to incur debt. Within 7 days, school committee has to send the select board's notification. Hey, we voted to take out some debt. Let me be really clear. The towns have the final say about this. School committee doesn't have the final say. Towns have the yay or nay. There's a couple ways the towns can have yay or nay. School committee within 7 days says, select boards, we're voting to take out debt. Select boards have some options. They can talk about it 60 days, and they can say, you know what, it makes sense. Like, holy cow, we got all these things. Yeah. And they do nothing. If they do nothing in 60 days, it means that town they're okay with the idea of taking on debt. The select board can say, no, we think that's a terrible idea. Or they can say, oh, we think it's interesting, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but we want town residents to vote. Select boards have 60 days to call a special town meeting for the purpose of allowing town residents to vote on whether the district should take on debt. If any one of the towns at town meeting votes not to take on debt, the debt doesn't happen. So again, school committee, you control whether or not to take a vote on debt and how much the debt, and they're very specific, there's very rigid language about that vote. It is the towns that decide whether or not the district takes on the debt. Is that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Before we do what's next, I want to give you, this is the facilities assessment reports. Towns have these, we sent them to the libraries, they're on our website, they've been on our website for almost 2 years. There's a report for each school, and then there's a combined report. That slide I showed you that showed the 39 million, that's a combined report. And look, the canon numbers could be off, but they're not off by an order of magnitude, right? So even, let's say they're off by 25%. They said 39 million just to keep pace with problems. Let's say they're off by 30%. Factor in inflation from 2 years ago, 39, we're still talking tens of millions of dollars is needed. So what have we got in here? Well, this is just Northfield Elementary. That is the school that was picked as, like, gosh, you're a needy little building. $430,000 for roofing repairs. This is from the specialists who came out. Heating system, hot water boilers. Both boilers are at the end of their anticipated service life. Both boilers are currently leaking. Yeah, that would be a cool $300,000. A terminal unit, what is that? The heating unit ventilators have reached the end of their anticipated reliable service life and are in poor condition. That's a $436,000 repair. The heating distribution system, $700,000. Ventilation system supply and plenum return, $268,000. There's something a little heartbreaking in here. Northfield has been such an excellent partner. They have sought multiple green communities grants, and so they've been investing, thank you Northfield, in improved heating stuff. It's not, the system's not talking to each other. So we actually have some leakage. We have systems that call for heat, and it's not hearing it. So there's this patchwork set up now where our heating, the whole system is not unified the same, and it's not working. So I just wanted to give you some, that's just to fix stuff. That's not to create school environments that are modern, highly energy efficient, and conducive to the types of educational program that I am guessing most of our community wants to have the kids engaged in, which is a lot more hands-on work, a lot more group work, teamwork, flexible work. This is just to fix stuff. So my goal tonight was to give you a brief, not that brief, sorry, I talked for a long time, a heads up, the time has come to consider a feasibility study. I think had we not had the insurance business over the past several months, we would have been able to bring this to you a couple months ago. I can't, it is hard to overstate how much time the insurance business has taken. But it is now crunch time. Conversations need to happen. I want to give you a heads up, answer your initial questions, and let you know we're notifying the towns tomorrow. As part of this budget thing, we need to talk to Mrs. Geruso, who chairs the budget subcommittee, but it is also a full school committee meeting. We must provide a really good presentation about what our options are, what the implications are for borrowing, not borrowing money, so that in January, school committee can decide what you want to do. All right? So I'm going to say thank you for listening, and I would love to hear your comments and questions.
Stephanie?
Yeah. First, I just wanted to say my daughter's in BES,
Oh.
and you know, we're sending our kids with base layer on, and you know, because we don't know if their room's going to be in good shape or not, and they're handling it, I think, very well. They spent a whole day in the library one day, and they had fun, and the teachers and the staff are handling it very well. But to say that's a problem is an understatement, because the reason they're moving from some of these rooms is because it's so incredibly cold or it smells terrible. So that's a pressing issue, right? I don't know a lot about this process, so I'm going to ask you some questions about what either ors, right? Because everybody always wants to know, is there a way we can get through this? You know, we have homes, we might say, oh, well, the roof needs done in 2 years, and the, you know, the heating and all that. When we do a feasibility study and put that investment in, are we bringing in a consultation kind of group, and are they looking at our buildings and giving us a really thorough look at how long before that needs done? You know, it's like almost bringing a contractor to your house and having them say, well, you know, you have this long before that. And also, after we spend that money, does doing that open us up to more state and federal funding for assistance to make those repairs? Or is it just a way of putting the projects together in the order of importance, putting together kind of a budget-friendly what's going to happen? What?
Let me. So the first question was about do that. So the facilities assessment report, I believe, is what you're talking about. This was an external group that helped us think about long-term planning. They brought in experts to look at the buildings. They did what you're talking about. Okay. How much might it cost? Now, the feasibility study is to say, and I think having done this put the district in a really great position with the state. We'd already invested money, and this was federal money. We didn't tax the towns for this.
Okay. So
to do this. It said to the state, we're ahead of the game. We've done this portion of it. We would hire an owner's project manager, an OPM, who helps us throughout the entire process. They would begin, because Northfield was the one SOI accepted. However, the state has been very clear. We're accepting Northfield, and we understand that the feasibility study is likely to look at Northfield and say, we think we ought to look at the whole picture, that bringing everybody up here. They are looking at what would it cost to, taking this and other information, what would it cost to fix up just Northfield? And fix up could be just maintenance, but probably not. The MSBA wants to see improvements to facilities so that they promote even better educational programming. Or maybe does it make more economic sense in the long term to bring everybody up here, because then the towns aren't investing their money in aging buildings. So there could be a bigger upfront cost in renovating here and building out, and significantly lower operating costs in the long term. So a feasibility study would tell us, here's what your options are. Okay. Here's how much they would be. You know, you make some decisions. Now, at that point, school committee has to go to the towns and say, you know, what do you want to do? Do we do a building project? Do we not? And that's a couple years down the road, like 2.5 years down the road, at least. You asked me a question, though. Oh, yes, so because we're in the MSBA queue as it were. Yeah, that whole project is reimbursed at around 58%.
So that opens us up. By doing these things,
Yes.
we open ourselves up to additional supportive funding in the long run.
Yes, if we
Okay.
do, so the corollary to that is, if the towns say, we're not doing a feasibility study, no, we're not borrowing money, we are on our own. So the 800,000, the 300,000, the 400,000, just at NES, towns are on their own, we can seek federal, no state support, the towns.
No reimbursement, okay.
Yeah. Now, there was federal grant money for all kinds of energy infrastructure projects. I don't know where that stuff stands right now, honestly, with what's happening at the federal level. But if we don't go with the MSBA, yes, thank you, this is huge. Town residents are funding themselves all 100%, whatever infrastructure repairs we make, and if we choose to make any improvements to the buildings, it's on taxpayers.
Now, you said we're in the process with them, but we would have to do a feasibility study in order to get the reimbursement. So we would have to buy in at 1 point whatever million in order to get into this
To
process.
stay in the process. And at
Right.
the end of the feasibility study, the towns might say, yeah, no, we're gonna leave everything the way it is. Or, you know what, we don't want everybody up here. We're gonna invest in Northfield, and Northfield owns the building, so it's Northfield's
Gotcha.
project.
Just one more thing, and
Yeah,
I'm sorry
yeah.
to take your time on this.
No, this is
So
great.
there's a country method to this that I know from being, from growing up that way. So what it would be is, BES's boiler is leaking.
Right.
Let's fix that. Northfield's roof is leaking. Let's fix that. That's that progressive maintenance as we go along. And if we go that route, obviously we don't get reimbursement then from the state. But is there any type of inspection that occurs of a school building by a state or local or federal authority that we would have to comply with? Therefore, if we're in the mood for a certain year to fix the roof, but it starts leaking and then we're inspected, we're forced into that. So is there any type of oversight on a school building for being safe for students or inhabitable, for instance?
So my understanding is that we are subject to the same building codes as everybody else, and there are additional codes to which we are responsible, subject, because we work with kids. I need to talk to Taffy and Gretchen and get you more information about
Right.
exactly which ones, but yes, if we have unhealthy environments, we will be in trouble.
Is a school passing those type of inspections also have ramifications for federal or state assistance or funding towards the school? That's another thing I would say, because, we're looking at putting in local dollars to support local buildings. And if we see a connection with state or federal support, we need to acknowledge that, even though it may be a reimbursement, which might mean we're up front with more. But I think that's a big part of the conversation. And thank you for talking with me about it, because I don't fully.
This is super big
No,
and
it's-
complicated.
yeah.
Super
No,
big
it's
and
great.
complicated, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. This, again, just a very thoughtful presentation, and clearly there's been a lot of deliberate planning, because the last time I checked, things fall apart. Things do not fall together. I wish they would fall together. I'm a doctor. I wish falling together happened, but it turns out the reason I have a job is because things fall apart. And to hear, your daughter wearing a base layer to go to one of our schools seems to infringe on, the basic rights people should have to shelter, shelter that's for children. I mean, this is, so I apologize in that I have not been through this process formally as a committee member, so I appreciate following in Stephanie's footsteps and getting some clarification. My sense in doing the budgets the past few years is that there's not particularly a capital section, section to our budgets. And I'm going to think in a very, a way that's very rough. But I guess the way I've been thinking about it is, our buildings are a little bit on the education school committee side, are a little like a condominium. And we're taking care of the paint in. That is, we're taking care of like the shell, the inside of the envelope you mentioned, and we're doing great education work in that space. But we don't really own, as you mentioned, as a school committee, we do not own these structures. And so our annual budget has nothing, has nothing in significance, in this kind of significance, to address planned maintenance, ongoing maintenance for structures that will fall apart, mechanisms that will fall apart. And so I guess to clarify this in one question, how, without doing anything, then in due course, we will have uninhabitable buildings.
Yeah, that's.
And thankfully, they will be offline sooner than uninhabitable because they're for children and their teachers and staff members. So it seems to me that so I guess as one quick question, it's not quick at all, but this seems like standard operating procedure for towns in Massachusetts, that you have a school, you have a district, and then you have to, I wish we didn't have to spend money, but it turns out that buildings cost money and maintaining them cost money, and so we have to spend money as a town. I mean, that seems the basic structure. Is that accurate?
Yes, you have hit the nail on the head. And the larger context is, I was looking through the statement of interest. You know, this building was redone in 2001. And BES was 1997. NES was about that same time also. There's been no major work in 25 to 30 years across the buildings. Now, when I came in this very late summer 2021, I realized within a couple months, like, wow, we don't have information about our facilities. So I started talking late that fall. So that's 4 years ago. It took about a year to get approval and money to start the facilities master planning process. That took us a year. We put in for the SOI with the MSBA. That took about a year. So here we are in the process. We made a decision as an administrative team. It did not make sense to go to the towns in the past year and a half, 2 years and say, hey, let's do the roof. The roof needs work. Because we were trying to get into, and then we were accepted into the MSBA queue. So why would we bring to the towns, hey, $1 million project, when we were waiting to see if we would do a feasibility study? So just, I want to be clear, that's why we haven't been bringing you.
No, truly, no, I really thank you.
capital
And
projects.
at the same time, that roof was going to fall apart.
Sorry.
Yeah, hold on, Melissa.
That
one
roof was
second.
going to fall apart at some point. So it just strikes me that I'm going to take one last
Yeah.
step back. And I'll refer to one of my favorite teams, the Celtics. And this is last year's Celtics, so please. So,
Steve?
I know, I'm doing what I can. Okay. There are, in the third quarter of the Celtics last season, they would have a lead of like 20 points. And all the fans would be white-knuckling it because they knew they were going to lose that lead and actually be down. And so it strikes me, you can have the opposite effect, which is you come into a game and you're always ahead and you think you're going to win. And look at our 26-0 basketball team for Pioneer. So these are ways of thinking about the future. And they are actually two different kinds of what are called self-fulfilling prophecies. If you're the Celtics and you think you're going to win the game no matter what, you don't really play as hard. And then you lose the game. You can adopt a different perspective, which is we're going to win this game, but it's really contingent on what we do now and every moment to win the game. And as I think about this for our towns and as a proud member of Northfield town and of the region, it strikes me that the commitment to quality buildings for our kids and their staff, the commitment is a future that people want to live in. That is, you're imagining a future where there is a Leiden and a Northfield and a Bernardston, and they're thriving, wonderful communities like they are now. And if you imagine that future, then there's no question you are going to have to do this work because you cannot get to that future by not taking an action, a thoughtful, careful, and action proportionate to the problem. One could have, I don't think we do, I hope we don't, one could have a dismal view of the future, a dystopian view of the future, where everything's falling apart. And there's no reason to do anything because things will fall apart. And I would just say that any town that does not want to put its shoulder behind its schools, I will show you that future because it is a dark future. And I say this out of real respect for the towns and really respect for the kind of affordances that we're looking for, but also to the state who's willing to share in this cost. I would very much hope we're looking to a future that's bright for our schools and our region and our kids and what we're doing. And to do that, now we have to make buildings that will allow that to happen. And this, I really appreciate the pathway that we've been put on here to consider this. But it strikes me that the work we'll do near term, very near term, the 22nd, for example, will actually have a lot more to do about how people see the future than the numbers on the balance sheet necessarily. And I would just love for us to just put on the table, I see a hopeful future, a wonderful future for this region. So if I didn't, I would care less about the buildings, right? I would be sad that the kids were cold and wearing increasing number of layers every day. But I wouldn't really care that much about, because the future didn't look bright, but our future is bright as long as we take steps like the Celtics should have all those times and tried to score every game in the third quarter and win those. So thanks for the comment and question.
Melissa?
Hi. I can piggyback off of Steve. This is an interesting opportunity. It doesn't have to look so dismal. I was looking through, that just sort of my thoughts on it. I was looking through the facility master plan while you were talking, Patricia. And it's interesting because, so it seems like you said we're looking at like $40 million.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So,
an estimate, yeah.
so if we look, I did like a quick AI search. I know it's just AI, but I said, what's the average cost of a 500 student elementary school? And it said between 50 million and 25 million. And when we look at and 500 is more than we have now, which could, if we, it sounds like we're expecting more enrollment over the next 10 years. So you might need more room for elementary school. In the facility master plan, the recommended option and the option that people were surveyed that seemed that they liked the most was the one campus option. So potentially is the idea that if the towns voted for a feasibility study, they would look at these different options and say, part of the feasibility, maybe it's not feasible to spend all this money in Northfield, and instead we could make a one campus for cheaper. And that's interesting because in their master plan, it notes that even though the one-time capital cost for a one campus option would be more, the annual operating cost would be much less. And so over time, we would actually save the towns a ton of money, probably. So that's kind of interesting. So is that the idea with the feasibility study? They take everything and then they say, does this even make sense? And should we build a new school at the PVRS campus?
Yes, you have captured that correctly, Melissa. And I want to help, honestly, town officials and town residents not kind of over-focus on this idea of they're going to shut the elementary schools and bring everybody up here. That's not the purpose, as you are saying, of the feasibility study. The purpose of the feasibility study is to get us good information about options. So then town residents can make the most informed decision possible. I did correspond with one fiscal hawk in one of our towns who said to me, no one's going to support this. I'm being dramatic. I really enjoy corresponding with this resident. The towns aren't going to want this. And I said, okay, that's great. let me tell you what's happening. Piper's coming to be paid. It is not a question of if, it's when and how much. And let me tell you about the MSBA. This is not a subject to appropriation disbursement of funds. I'll repeat it. Every single sales tax transaction in the state has 1 penny of it set aside to go to school building projects. It's brilliant. And I wish they would do that for public safety buildings as well. I wish that our fire and police and EMS colleagues had a dedicated funding stream. So this is not a we have to worry about, will the legislature appropriate the money in 2030? I'm making that number up when we need it. The money's there. They spend like 1.5 billion a year. If we go through this, we would get the reimbursement.
Of course, yeah.
Observations I've made. Is there an option when you're looking to borrow money to do a feasibility study? Does the state offer a reduced interest type finance option or some kind of help to a town that might be going to look for additional funding?
It would be the district that goes to get the money, and typically districts get very favorable rates. And I
Okay.
think it's a 5-year term on the loan. And again, let's pretend it's 550. That's divided up among the 3 towns.
Okay.
Right. 550, we can kick in about a 150. So it's less than that for the towns. It's divided among the 3 towns, and we don't begin assessing until FY28.
Right. With regards to the perceived $40 million that would be to bring things up to par, knowing that that would be probably through multiple years on a plan if we were to move, if they were to move forward on that. And also, respectfully, I don't think anyone is trying to disparage our towns for the stewardship of the schools. We're really, I think that's very important to say. When that comes to fruition and we're doing multi-million-dollar projects, do those again have some type of way to get funding that's advantageous? Is there some type of funding available to the towns when they're looking for the money to do those repairs, the $40 million as we're going through the years? Do they have options that are better?
Yep, there's nothing better than the MSBA. Let's be 58 cents on the dollar for us. If you have more kids who are poor, you get more reimbursement. But 58 cents on the dollar for me. I mean, none of us gets that on our houses. Like 58 cents on the dollar.
Well, sure, that's
so. There are, when we were doing the feasibility study, Mary DeLye, a former superintendent, business whiz, she was our consultant helping us with the SOI. We could stack MSBA funding, let's say 58%. A year and a half, 2 years ago, there was really good federal money for HVAC improvements that would get stacked on top. Like the federal government was paying 30% of all HVAC stuff. You put in a ground source, whatever, solar. 30% of that on top of MSBA. That's so good.
So that could
I don't
be
know,
there or
but I
could
don't.
not,
I don't
right.
know the status of federal funding. Certainly, there's state grants out there, but those tend to be competitive grants.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
One last observation, and this isn't anything that's set in stone. Obviously, it hasn't been voted on, but one thing I do see is that when we look at ways to save money on education and improve education, one of the things that has been floated recently is the regionalization. And in that scenario, we still have our local elementary schools. So as we seek to make a logical future and do so in a fiscally responsible manner, I think it's very important to say that will not take this away. And probably by public opinion, as I've heard in those meetings, that people want their elementary schools. So our teachers, our staff, our students, the parents, the community members are very invested in these buildings, and unfortunately, you're telling us there's a lot to do.
I don't know. Can you
So
turn it off?
thank you for your time. I appreciate you helping me through that.
Thank you so much for raising that. Just and we've been thinking about this, and we'll talk about it when we do the presentation on the 22nd regarding the 6-town regionalization planning board. This must be said. The board has asserted in multiple venues and in multiple documents that should residents approve a regionalized district, there will be no big capital projects. And I believe it is presented almost as a, hey, go with us, you won't have to spend that money. It is close to irresponsible to say that when we got these documenting,
Montague's
if I'm
proposing-
going to finish,
sorry.
please. It is irresponsible to say that to taxpayers when we have documentation from building experts that there are tens of millions of dollars in deferred maintenance necessary. So I almost feel like that one we should just put to the side. Yep, they're saying that. That's not helpful to town residents who need to think about how they want to spend their hard-earned tax dollars.
And honestly, Montague has already said that the elementary school complex that they have is so badly in need of renovation, they're proposing to build a single school for all elementary age. Like, that's a huge capital investment that they already have to make. So that's,
Yeah. So at our December 22nd meeting that we'll be having with, joint budget, we'll be talking more in depth about this feasibility study. But I think it's really important for anyone who's listening or anyone who's going to be repeating what they heard at tonight's meeting, that we have not made a decision about what we're doing as a district on whether we are combining to come up to Pioneer, whether we're moving forward with this feasibility study or not. It's still a discussion that is yet to be. And there have been statements that I've heard of hard and fast, decisions that are being made already to either not support feasibility study or to support it. And we're not there yet. We're in the beginning steps. So there'll be more discussion. Yeah.
I think for me, at least part of the problem here is I don't know who came up with the name feasibility study. Because it really doesn't seem to capture the aim of this next stage. And I wish maybe we could come up with a different way of describing it. But feasibility, first of all, yes, no.
Right.
It's not yes, no. It's which
Which
feasible
option?
option.
Which
Right?
yeah.
But that's, so option study. No, truly, because the feasibility part, I think, is, to me at least, confusing. Like, something better be feasible.
Right.
So, anyway, I would just,
Yeah.
for our own purposes, in-house, or how we think about it,
Yeah.
like, this is an option study of different options.
Right. Yeah. Melissa?
Thank you. I'll try not to make this take a long time. I've been listening to all of you talk. You've done a great job. I appreciate everyone's thoughtful and time that you've put into your questions that you've been asking. And I want to look at it from a little bit different approach. I don't agree or disagree with the feasibility study because it hasn't happened yet. I think we have to make some decisions. What I haven't heard that I was hoping to hear soon from everyone at this group and maybe from some of the town select board meetings, which I plan on going to, is, to your point, Patricia, the Piper is coming.
Yes.
We have some problems that have to be addressed. Even if we get what some folks are hoping for a project to be approved with the MSBA, the feasibility study, to move forward to coming to one campus, or just fixing Northfield, or fixing somewhere else, we're all still going to school every day.
Correct.
The buildings
Right.
need to be worked on. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The district owns this building.
Yeah.
We are leases of the two other buildings. I haven't heard anyone tell me or explain how we're going to spend funds, because it's going to be a 2 to 5 to 10 year project, regardless what is decided. And all of the questions are valid. As a person that works in one of the buildings, as a person that had a student that went to one of the buildings, 2 of the buildings, as a member of this union, I'd like to know, what is our plan now to start making repairs? We can't just wait.
Yep.
We can't wait for the feasibility study to happen. And this isn't me saying the sky is falling. This is real world. Every day we go in, you have the temperatures of our classrooms. I'm fortunate you came to the school. You know where I work. I haven't heard anyone talk about what are we going to do now.
Yeah.
And to me, that is actually very important. We all in our lives have to make decisions that, yes, I would love to do a new kitchen, but I have to do the roof first. I would love to do this, but in order to do it, I have to do maintenance. And I still haven't heard anyone say, even in the school that we own, and I know you have it, Taffy, I'm sure you do, this is how much we know we have to spend to fix Pioneer's building's furnace every year. I know we have to do, anyone that does a budget for your own home is putting money aside every year to take care of your home. What are we doing? What are we changing as a district and as towns to start putting money aside in case the feasibility study is we need to fix Northfield, right?
Yeah.
Things are not getting cheaper. They're not going to get cheaper. And I'll try to end it there.
Yeah.
But I think that would go a long way for a lot of townspeople and a lot of people that have children in the buildings to understand where are we putting the money to help, not just put a Band-Aid on it.
Right.
We have to make some real decisions about what we're fixing while we're on this swim lane.
So
So I'll leave it there.
you are so right, Melissa. This is the fork in the road. This is the next 6 weeks, that this is the fork in the road, because if we go down the feasibility route, then we say, okay, we're doing a feasibility study, and in the meantime, because that's going to take, I forget how many days, like 18 months or something, we got to do this. If there's no feasibility study, and we'll know that in the next maybe 8 weeks, if there's no feasibility study, then it's a completely different ballgame. Then we need to go to the towns and say, Bernardston, here's the big old here's a 3, 5, 10-year capital. And remember, Leiden is responsible under the existing district agreement only for capital projects in this building. Leiden has no legal requirement to contribute to capital projects at Bernardston. Right? Under the draft district agreement that the school committee completed changes that. Right? Northfield. Northfield, what is your plan? We're going to tell you what the capital projects are that we think must happen if there's no feasibility study. And I want to give kudos again to Bernardston because, I believe Bernardston has dug into the facilities assessment reports. I don't know that Northfield has convened any group to pull this study apart, the Northfield building, and say, gosh, this, then the other, let's interact with it. So you're right. We're at the fork in the road, but it doesn't make sense for us to say we have to do this, that, and the other until we know if a feasibility study is happening. Once we know that, then we have to make decisions about what the heck are we going to do for the next 24 months so that people are not working and kids aren't studying in a place where there are glycol leaks and folks are feeling bad, like not good. Yes, that has to happen.
Well, and what I'm afraid of and what I'm hearing, and I'm so glad you brought this up, Melissa, from being an employee and working every day in what's going on at BES, because in my perspective, we don't have time to wait for the feasibility study. That boiler needs to be fixed yesterday. Like something has to be done. So even if we go through this feasibility study, there's a chance that that boiler goes kaput and we're in this situation next month. And I'm not trying to, right? Like, I'm not trying to like, oh my gosh, but this is the reality of what's going on, is there may be two simultaneous things happening where we are doing a feasibility study, but we are also, as I was trying to explain this to someone the other day, the tenants, right? We are the tenants of the building. We are not the landlord. And so these capital projects, right, that need to get done, we're kind of knocking on the door to being like, something's going to have to be done for the heating system. And we know that it's a problem. How are we going to get there? And there may be some big capital stuff that has to happen. And ultimately the towns own these buildings regardless. So whether we continue to operate as a school within that building or that building turns into town offices or something else, the heating system, unless they're just going to shut the building down, depending on what the feasibility study decides and the direction we go, the heating system still has to be dealt with. And so I'm actually more, I'm smiling because in the wintertime, I always look at the weather for snow days still. I'm still like a kid at heart. My anticipation now is, oh my God, what's the new glycol leak? What's the BES? I'm not worried about weather anymore. I'm worried about the daily phone call from Patricia saying, this is what's going on at BES. We're going to have to move our students. We can't sustain this. What is the disruption of the learning happening? What is going on? Like, that is my daily kind of concern right now. Yeah. And that's not the feasibility study, right? So, so I'm glad you brought it up, because that is really where I'm coming from at this point. Yeah.
You know, you raise an incredibly realistic and rational point when you say that, because that was an assumption I made when we were talking about a broader thing that comes before us as a committee that we can lay the groundwork for, that we can put proposals together and explain the process. But it would be a huge service to the community and the staff and everybody who comes to that school. What is the status of communication between, you know, the district and the town on the, I know that they're doing repairs this weekend. I know it was delayed because we had the kids in school and we didn't want to turn the heat off while they were in there. And Lord knows we're having some amazing weather right now to add to the complications, right? It's even more important. But what has been your experience on this current issue, which is current?
So, yeah, so what I've seen so far is communication going back and forth, emails between Patricia and the town. This is what's going on. This is the update. This is, and so the other day when Patricia and I were on the phone, is I said, I would like Jamrog to provide us a report, or what is their projection of the heating system? What are they,
We got it.
awesome.
It's no, it's not awesome.
No, it's no, because more knowledge is
Yeah,
power,
yeah.
right?
It is.
And
We know
so
what we're dealing with.
instead
Yeah, yeah,
instead
yes,
of
of
us,
course,
right?
yeah.
So instead of us constantly wondering, like, oh gosh, like, is this, so when we go to town partners, right, and say the feasibility study says this, you know, from 2 years ago, which is helpful, but now in a day in life of a BES student and a faculty member, we can say, this is from Jamrog yesterday, and this is what's going on. And so we can meet with the town, you know, meet with the towns and say, this is what we're seeing. This is.
Do you have any assurances? Obviously, there's a repair being done, and I don't want to paint a picture of anyone not being receptive to handling the issue. But with the prior repair after the last leak, where the kids were taken to a predetermined place, and again, they had a blast, the teachers did great, the staff did great. Do you have a receptive kind of conversation going that if this calls for a more extensive repair or replacement, that can be done in a timely manner? Or are they giving you inclinations as you might need to develop a secondary location for that population?
Yeah.
And I'm
that.
speaking to you as a parent,
Yep.
truly,
Yeah.
more, but
I-
it's foreseeable.
Thank you. I'm thinking we should hold off on sharing information about Jamrog's prognostication regarding this winter heating season. It must be said, Bernardston is a great partner. Bernardston, Taffy, Gretchen Licata, Director of Facilities, meet every month. There's a facilities meeting every month with the town. Bernardston is very active in a collaborative conversation about the building. We did file for insurance for what happened a couple weeks ago. Taffy and I have already started a conversation about contingency planning. If we have to shut Bernardston,
Excellent.
how are we bringing the kids up here? Are we bringing the kids here? And frankly, the same with Northfield. If we have to shut one of the elementaries because things really fall apart during the heating season, we've already thought about which wings we're going to repurpose on an emergency basis for the little kids, for BES. You know, yes, we are already starting. And
Thank you.
in Northfield, don't forget, we have the sewer system. Remember last year we had to shut Northfield for a day because the sewer pipe broke on Main Street. anyone who's a Northfield resident, you know, the sewer system, I've talked with Karen on the sewer committee about, should we be making contingency plans that Northfield, if the water goes in Northfield Elementary shuts down. So this is coming at us from multiple angles.
Well, I appreciate that because it seems logical with something that's, beyond its serviceable lifespan, And again, wasn't painting a picture against the town.
No.
We just have to be realistic about the expectations of a workforce, young children, and what we expect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for all of this information. It's a lot, but it's been a very good discussion, and I appreciate all my colleagues' questions. I was part of the facilities master planning process, which was a very informative and helpful, and it's just building on all of that. It's great. So.
Michelle? Yeah, I hear Michelle.
You're going to be on mic.
Okay.
Is she on speaker?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to make one comment that it might be important to get an independent HVAC engineer to look at the system. So you're not just going on one company's recommendation. I have had to do that in the past, and it has been worth the dollars to get these independent engineers to evaluate systems. I'm not saying anything against Jamrog, but, there are different HVAC engineers can really tell you which way is the best way to go.
That is excellent advice, and we intend to heed that advice. If it's a big project, by law, it has to go out to bid. So that
Yeah, but I'm talking before that assessment, just an independent assessment.
Okay.
I can talk about it later on the 22nd.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Okay. I'm noticing
Our person's here.
that Ken is here.
Switching gears.
So we can switch gears to another heavy issue. We're gonna
bright and sunny.
If we're in school, I'd be saying stand up.
we need to take a little stretch, right? So to give you a little bit of background, we have joining with us Ken Lombardi, who is a consultant working for us to help us navigate the HCGIT and GIC situation. So Ken, welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us.
Right. And just as a bit more introduction, Ken and his colleague Tara Faffard came out to the district. Thank you for driving all the way up here, Ken. In this room, we had 19 staff and one spouse. And Ken and Tara did I thought it was an excellent presentation. They gave a lot of information. They're very experienced in this area. And after yesterday's presentation, we put all kinds of information up on the district website for our employees. We sent out an email saying, head right over there. We're going to keep housing information. So, Ken, thank you. I think the school committee is looking for kind of the big picture overview of what's happening.
Sure. So I'll kind of back up. So Hampshire County, right, the group insurance trust that the school district's health plan is provided through. There's probably been enough discussion about it, but there's a significant amount of financial challenges. And it's not just with that particular healthcare trust, it's with a number of healthcare trusts in the state, as well as other large municipalities. And just about every governmental group healthcare plan is going to be seeing some continued significant increases. Most of it's because of the challenging healthcare cycle we're all kind of in. The big issue here is and Patricia's right. We've tried to give all of the stakeholders, teachers and staff, a really good idea of what's going on. But the biggest challenge is the one opportunity that seems to be probably prudent, right? A couple of reasons. Number one is we need to find a place where we can create some consistency in cost with our healthcare plan, and get out from underneath sort of the chaos we have now with Hampshire County. But we have to do it quickly, right? We've got one opportunity to possibly move our healthcare plan from its current arrangement through the Blue Cross Blue Shield program through Hampshire County. And ideally, it makes reasonable sense to look at the state's healthcare plan, the Group Insurance Commission. But the challenge has been that it's a timing issue, right? And the timing issue is they want a number of steps to be completed, communication with the impacted union employees and staff, all to be done really in about 2 or 3 more weeks, right? And it's difficult because there's a lot of information that's been made available and has been evaluated. But what we do know is this: given the healthcare costs that the 73 communities and the trust have incurred, and the rising trends and the inability to keep up or step up with the price of the plan appropriately, we've had 38% increases right in the last 4 or 5 months. And that's probably not even enough. We could see even higher costs. What we really think people need to be aware of is that the plan as we know it today is going to be radically different. Let's say you stay in the trust and it survives, but it's still going to be radically different on July 1 of 2026. They will all be necessary changes that need to be made. Plan cost share features will have to change, possibly increasing or adding a deductible, some other cost share features as well. Might see another rate increase as well. What we thought makes reasonable sense is to move the health plan into the Group Insurance Commission. Now, this is a timing issue, right? We need to have all this stuff done by January 5th. And the issue is the plan would not be effective until July 1 of 2026. So hopefully, right, we can survive with the current trust program until July 1st. We will have some challenges even moving into the GIC, because it's very likely if the trust either dissolves or a number of groups leave, which we anticipate, that our runoff claim liability, or those claims that have to get paid after we leave, but were incurred prior to the July 1st termination date, we probably are still going to own that liability. Best case is we move to the GIC, we can reduce our base cost because of the pretty comprehensive plan selections, and I'll talk about those. If we can reduce our costs sufficiently, then at least we can keep the baseline, even with runout claims, without seeing a dramatic increase in the budget for fiscal year 27. All right, so that's really the key. So the moving parts are meeting with staff, explaining the information. We have mentioned to Patricia and Taffy, our firm has done a number of these transitions into the GIC in working with employees and in working with the carriers that are available through the GIC to educate the membership to understand plan selection. Because 2 of the plans, there's 8 plan options within the GIC, so it's a menu. People can take any plan that's available. There's some slight restrictions, but generally, employees in Franklin County pretty much have a couple of plan options that are actually less costly in premium than what members are paying today. Now, there is a higher out-of-pocket cost under the GIC program as compared to the current program, which is extremely robust, but that plan is going to change anyway, so it might be more apples to apples than people can think about. But if we can get the population, there's 102 active employees on the plan, 61 retirees. Now, we're only talking about the program through Hampshire County. We also still have about 130 retirees that are offered through the retired state teacher system, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the goal here is everyone gets information, asks questions. Patricia and Taffy are doing a great job of sort of assembling questions, getting information out to the staff to make sure people are comfortable, because we really do want the unions to be on board with the recommendation, and then to share in sort of all of the process and make sure that they understand why the decision's being made. The risk manager in all of us at this point in time, I'll just kind of deviate a little bit. It is extremely dangerous, right, to not take any action. So we understand that January 5th, the deadline that we need to make this decision is a rush time frame. but it's extremely dangerous to not take any action. The trust could survive, but what I can also tell the team is that there's a number of the trust members that are out seeking options in the general marketplace today. So the way this works in the health insurance world is the carriers that are looking at all these different plans are going to prospectively underwrite each one of the plans that's out to bid. And the ones that have favorable claims data, right, and compared to the premium that's being paid, will probably leave because they'll get pretty good offers to go to another carrier, possibly Blue Cross Blue Shield Direct, possibly Harvard Pilgrim, maybe even Health New England Direct. Those are pretty much the three carriers in our geographic area. So even if the financials appear favorable today with the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust, and they're not, but if they started to seem like they're correcting, we anticipate that what we see today will be radically different on July 1st. So it would be my sense that the idea of moving into the GIC, because we know the costs, we know the programs, we know there's going to be some changes in rates, but so aren't our rates going to change. So we are apples to apples. But because of the menu of options, the various choices members have, without any adverse risk issues, because we're not insuring ourselves anymore. It's part of the larger group. It's over 450,000 members with the state and other municipalities. That's probably a better place to land than trying to weigh this out and get through get through this whole sort of like poor claim cycle. So it does, in my mind, it outweighs moving to the GIC and taking that action is probably more beneficial than trying to hold on and keep pace with what's going on with Hampshire County. We're going to see increases anyways, right? If we can get the membership to understand the certain plan options, because there's at least two plans that are lower cost and premium than Hampshire County today that are robust, right? If we can get the membership to embrace those plans, and by the way, other communities in the geographic area generally have favored those plans as well. So it's not like we're hoping for members to leap the faith here. We have data that supports that they are beneficial plans. But if we can get the membership to migrate to these plans, our goal here is to maybe lower the current cost or avoid a trend increase in the current cost, something relative, so that at least your budget next year, even though it's going to go up, can absorb the run-out claims and pay the premium through the GIC and not really see a big, sort of radical difference. In addition, your teachers, when they retire today, already go to the GIC. All right, so half your population is already involved in those programs. So there's a tremendous amount of familiarity on that side of the equation. But the bottom line here is, I think it's a significant risk to not take on the opportunity. And Patricia and Taffy have sent a tremendous amount of information. I know Melissa is in the audience, and I know that her team has been very receptive in listening to these recommendations and has asked some great questions. So we're doing everything humanly possible in a short amount of time. I can tell you that I've done this with a number of communities over the last, probably 15 years or so, where the legislation has permitted communities to join the GIC. Actually, 2011 is when the law was passed, so 14 years. This process normally takes about 120 days. We are trying to do this, I don't know, Patricia, seems like 5 days, right, at this point in time. And that's probably, not too far from the truth. But I will tell the team that what has been beneficial is the staff, the teachers who've attended these meetings have been responsive, right, and understanding all of these issues. But sort of the last comment I'll make, then try to answer some questions. I think it's incredibly risky for this organization to not take advantage of this, and only because even if Hampshire County can get right-sized, I think the departure of some of the larger communities that have favorable claims will just further deteriorate this overall trust. So, I think that's sort of the takeaway I would have everyone kind of consider. Okay, happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. Questions, anyone? Yeah, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you for that explanation. You mentioned one of the risks of us making this move is, and I may say this incorrectly, but outstanding claims or claims that would be our obligation during the transition time. Can you explain further what the perceived risk would be if you have an idea of what we might incur, or if you think still, in your assessment, making the change with that?
Great question. So I'm going to answer it this way. It's very likely that we're going to see another significant cost increase on July 1 of 2026, right? If we continue the course with Hampshire County. And I don't think I'm telling you anything you wouldn't suspect anyways, given the market conditions. I always hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we should be, hoping that Ken Lombardi's wrong here. Let's say, worst case, the trust dissolves. What happens then is Blue Cross Blue Shield, your healthcare plan provider, will package your particular member's claims and they'll ship them off to Taffy and they'll ask her to reimburse Blue Cross for that claim liability. So that's issue number one. But keep in mind, you'll have to then go find a health insurance plan to replace what you've lost. So now you already have a run-out claim liability and you have a brand new premium simultaneously. So that's difficult to manage. Generally speaking, actuarial estimates for a run-out claim total is about equal to 1 month of premium costs. And so I think, Taffy, you're spending about $260,000 or $270,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
For premium. So think about that coming due. Now, it won't all come due on July 1st, for instance. It'll take a little bit of time to kind of trickle in, but it'll be over probably a 1 to 3 month period, and then maybe it'll be done. So you'll have to think about that level. Our goal was, if we can get the membership, we're going to have a rate increase anyways on July 1st. If we can get the membership to consider the cost-effective plans, maybe we can drive down our current spend, all right? Or at least eliminate some of the increase so that we can handle both costs, because you're going to have to pay them, right? It's going to happen regardless. Our fear is on December 1st, you get a bill from, you get a notice from Hampshire County. We have no more money to pay bills, right? And then all of a sudden, Blue Cross sends 73 claim bills out to 73 communities, because Blue Cross is not in the business to be a sort of an organization that's going to want to front claim activity. They're in the business to process claims and charge you administrative costs. They're not going to want to underwrite you without premium. So think about that opportunity or that issue that you have to deal with. And that's why the opportunity for the GIC makes sense to me. If you did go to the GIC and you wanted to try and market the plan to an independent organization like Blue Cross Direct or Harvard Pilgrim, the second issue is none of them want to give you a premium rate guaranteed on July 1, 2026 today without knowing what happens in the next 6 months. Right? They want to see updated claims data. That's the nature of underwriting. What's happened to our cohort claims on a current basis. So that's not an option either, right? Because we don't have a firm sort of a number on the table. The best possible piece of information we have is the Group Insurance Commission. We know how it's structured. We know what its rates are today. They are going to adjust as well. We know that, because healthcare inflation the state's not immune. Plan is not immune either. So this is tricky. It's a great question, and we're worrying about it, right? But we're just trying to best position to be able to handle those two costs at the same time.
My focus is on
answered your question or not, but that's
sure. Yeah, my focus is on the risk as we transition. So I think that you've made some great points about doing so. But the Hampshire County Trust, is it under any kind of state oversight, or if it were to dissolve, is there a procedure or a compliance type thing just to insulate us?
Yeah, at this point in time, the management team has reached out through local legislators to try and get your reps behind this process. My sense is I followed all of the discussions about this, and being in the risk management business, I was extremely disappointed that the state wasn't poised to kind of bail you guys out, but there may be more to it that I don't understand. I think, Patricia, you talked about it the other day. You had pretty eloquent response about it. But I think the point is they're not going to step in if they think that you can somehow fix this problem. And I think they think you can fix this problem by joining the GIC and going through the process. And that was pretty clear, right? So we're kind of doing that. What I would have liked for them to say is, yeah, you can come on April 1st, or you can come on January 1st.
Yeah.
And that would have been a better solution than making us go through this, because what they've done to us is put us in a risky position, I think unnecessarily, right? But at the same time, we don't want to gamble on possibilities, right? And that's what we're doing. This is really something we know we have access to. And I encourage it, right? Because I think, first off, my personal opinion is this organization has benefited significantly from Hampshire County. All the members have benefited significantly. I've worked with a number of communities that have been part of that trust for years. But I've also suspected over the last couple of years, why are they not getting 10% increases like everybody else? Or why are we not getting, plan changes like everybody else? And I'm not saying that's always going to fix this cost issue, but it can kind of avoid sort of the position we're in today. And it's because it is troublesome, but at the same time, I think now everyone is aware that the management of a healthcare plan locally by yourself, essentially, because that's what you're doing, it's difficult. It's really difficult when you're this size organization.
Ken, could you explain to people what the district's reserve fund is with the trust and how that would contribute to paying off?
We think we have some money. We think we have some money on account with the trust. They've recorded, all of the members had at some point an accumulated surplus, either assigned or developed. Communities we worked with that moved into the trust years ago had a pay-in balance. So there's an account assigned to us, roughly several $100,000. And that's the money we would hope would go to pay the terminal liability, right? The run-out claims and we hope that that's the case, and that would sort of help, because our concern is Kathy gets a bill on a run-out, but she's also going to pay full premium going forward. That's not manageable when, we don't have excess surplus locally, right? So again, my interest in you guys thinking about the GIC is our only opportunity to lower that baseline is to kind of get folks into right-sized plans, right cost plans. But so Patricia's right, that money will get spent first, but then ultimately, now here's the other thing, guys. If we happen to have, I'm not being insensitive here, but if we happen to have a catastrophic claim with one of our members, our insurance protection doesn't kick in for the trust until over $400,000. Let's say on June, whatever, we all of a sudden pick up a large claim, and it could happen. We have to worry about that, but that's part of being in the self-insured trust. And it is part of our concern because we don't really have individual claim information. But Patricia's right, that money gets spent first, and then whatever's left over, we get billed for.
Just one more question. As a member of that trust, is it appropriate, or is there an option for you to inquire about the amount in your reserve fund particularly?
Yeah, of course there is.
Okay.
Yeah, right. We can check on it. Yeah.
We have inquired. It's 300,000+, and as Ken has, I think alluded to, while that is our account and technically our money, we did get confirmation from the trust that in the past several months they have dipped into those reserves to pay bills. So we have 300,000+ in our reserve, which I think is more than a bunch of other entities. I'm not sure why, but I like the number. There's no guarantee that 300,000+ is going to be there on June 30th. So, this is, and also as Ken has alluded to, our local electives have been rock stars in working with the governor's office. There's been a bill, and I'm embarrassed, I don't know if it's been signed. I think it's passed both the House and the Senate to provide a safety net for HCGIT member entities that leave. And that we could amortize increases in health insurance costs over 5 years. And I'm suspecting that if we go to the GIC, something like run-out claims will be included, that we can amortize that over 5 years.
Anything else? Comments, questions?
So Ken, going over the timeline, we're working with our union leaders who again have been excellent partners in this work because this has to be a group effort. We have a meeting tentatively booked for Wednesday, the 17th, our PEC meeting. Our hope is that we can come out of that. Our attorney is drafting an MOA. I'll send it to you as soon as we get something, that we would come out of that meeting with a draft agreement to bring to school committee. The unions will have to consider it, that you could vote on at that unusual December 22nd meeting. If both parties agree to that, that's the moment. That is the signing on the dotted line, saying we're going to the GIC and we're sending our information to them by January 5th. That's your decision-making moment.
And just one more question about the, so the deadline, the January 5th deadline, that is the sort of like the open enrollment deadline?
No, thank you. Thank you for
How does
asking.
that,
No,
how does
that is
that?
the deadline. That's under the law. It's supposed to be a December 1st notification to the GIC that we would want to join for July 1 the following year. Because of what's happening with the HCGIT, they've extended that one time to January 5. That's our legally binding. The district will purchase insurance from the GIC. Then everything else starts. The information campaign continues. Our consultants come to the district, help people really look at plans. Open enrollment would take place in April. There's a whole nother segment of folks we need to be reaching out to also is our retirees, right? So that, again, as Ken said, our retired teachers are already in the GIC. It's our retired staff who were not teachers who are in our current HCGIT plan. So all kinds of information has to happen.
All right. So I think that's good, Ken. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone,
so
for your
much,
joining
time.
this
Ken.
meeting.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye,
Good night.
Patricia.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So more to come on December 22nd, right? For that. Okay. Moving on, enrollment update.
We got one more student.
Yay. Okay. I noticed there was a one change. And personnel update.
Yeah, so where are we? We are looking for a few instructional assistants in the special education world. I'm disappointed.
Sorry, Patricia's muted right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that, Melissa.
No problem.
We are looking for instructional assistants in special education positions. Very sorry to report that the teacher we hired for the 6th grade over at BES has decided not to continue in that position. So we posted immediately. One of our recent graduates, Cooper Bullock, is going to be heading in on Monday, and he'll be there for next week and the 2 days. Yes, Cooper has grown up. Cooper is, and you know who was in my office today? Another recent, Amelia Fowler-Shaw was in my office today, signing her paperwork. That's two of our Superintendent Excellence Award winners. Amelia was there today, signing up to be a sub. So doesn't that make you feel proud?
It's nice.
Isn't that good?
And we need them.
And we need
so
them.
subs, sign up, please.
Yes, please, sign up. That's what I got for you on that one.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, spaced out. Other business not anticipated by the chair. I do not have anything. Upcoming meetings. All right, so there is a strategic planning meeting on December 16th at 5:30 here in the library. School committee and budget subcommittee meeting December 22nd at 6 o'clock. Again, the strategic planning committee on January 6th at 5:30. School committee meeting, we have 2 in January. We have one on the 8th and one on the 22nd. Sandwiched in there is a budget subcommittee meeting on January 13th at 6 o'clock. And then we also have a budget subcommittee meeting on the 28th. So as you see, we have a lot of meetings. This is budget season. So thank you for everyone who is coming to all of these meetings and are present. We have one more meeting?
One more. On the is this on there? And I'm sorry if I interrupted. On the 17th of this month, we've got a combined teaching and learning and policy.
Oh, yeah, that's
We're
not
going
on
to
the
talk about
list.
graduation
Yep.
requirements next Wednesday.
And is there
Yep.
a district agreements subcommittee meeting
Oh,
in
yeah.
January?
When is that happening?
January.
Um,
It's a Monday.
Oh, right, because we're talking to Warwick.
Mhm.
Yes, sorry about that, people. January 12th, 3:30, district agreements and community relations. We'll get that on there. 1/12/26. Boy,
We got lots of meetings. Okay. So with that being said, it is 8 o'clock. So I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay. And roll call vote.
Stephanie Arroyo, yes.
Raina Dasty, yes?
Ian Martin, yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
And Melissa Gary, yes. And Michelle?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody. See you
everyone. Have a
later.
great evening.
Good night.
No worries.